Thank you very much for letting me be here and inviting me here. It's an absolute privilege to be able to share my story with you. So let's go back to the beginning. I was about 8 years old when I first decided to leave home. Yep, I packed my case with my definite essentials and made the epic 30-second journey down the bottom of the garden to the house tree, where I was now going to take up residence. It was a house tree because my dad said there weren't any trees big enough in the garden to have a tree house, so he built a little wooden Wendy house and planted an oak tree in it. Genius. Anyway, this was my new abode. I had my essentials, little treasures, as you do there. I had a bed made. It was beautiful. Kylie and Jason poster mounted on the wall, absolutely. All was good with the world until I heard the inevitable sounds of those footsteps coming down the garden path, coupled with my lovely mum's voice, which I apologise for my generic mother voice. "Darling," she calls. "Yes, Mum. What are you doing, darling?" Shaking her head and doing that classic mother face, which is sort of a mix of approval but disapproval, like this. "What are you doing?" I tell her of my great venture. I'm going to move out, live in this house tree, or maybe I might just stay out here one night, depends how it goes. She then responds by saying, no, dear, you mustn't. And as I protest and ask why, she goes, "Well, darling, you'll get ill. You'll get tuberculosis or something. You know, you'll get cold and damp. No, come inside." And as I followed her back down the garden path to the very cosy and warm interior of our house, I was planning my escape every step back to the house tree. And it was about this time that I made a very special friend that was a Palomino horse. 15 hands top height, 2 hands bottom height, adjustable wings, secret rocket feet, had an invisibility mask when I wanted it, sure. And actually, when it flew, farted sparkles. Standard. And I used to canter around the playground with my very good friend Catherine, who had a dapple grey, and we used to, every break time, go around our primary school playground, racing, before we mucked them out in the make-believe stables, of course, in between the memorial bins and the bench. Now, even though Sparkle, I'm afraid, has moved off to pastures new, and the house tree has been pretty much demolished, I would have thought, which is very sad, these two memories conjure up two really important fundamental things for me, really basic things. And that is, one, how it feels to be outside in, and it's a really natural instinct to want to be there, and as a child you're drawn to it. And also that really natural instinct of being able to play, completely immersing yourself in this pretend land, but then also that instinct to play. So, at 18, I adventured to the sunny realms of Falmouth in Cornwall doing an art foundation course. And it was there that I was invited to a friend's house, Tom's place. And so we ventured inland a few miles, and I came across the farm that he lived in. And as I walked through the gates and into the field, I saw the little corner that he resided in, and it was a canvas and pole structure that's called a yurt. And it was complete with bed, with fire, and record player. And I was like, wow, this is wonderful. This is really, really great. And he got to live there because he worked for the farmer, and they had this lovely exchange where they'd help each other. But as I left, I was told to keep this under my hat, because this wasn't a celebrated way of life and not promoted and had to be hidden. And I remember finding this absolutely confusing because it seemed to work on so many different levels where every single party benefited, the farmer, Tom, and the land, having someone connected with it. And this would be a theme through my life, this questioning. And so it was on to the ancient capital of England, Winchester, which housed my studies in community theatre, drama, and television. And it was here I met the wonderful Jennifer Walmsley and Craig Lockwood, who are massively important to this story as well, because they make up part of the TreeCreeper collective as it is now. And here we were encouraged to get out into all sort of nooks and crannies to understand what community really is, and we really did. We cut our teeth on the job. We got into so many places. We worked with both the male and female wings at Winchester Prison, devising theatre with them. We worked in Southampton with groups of young people from 4 opposing estates separated by generational tags, politics and religion. and most of all, subways. And we used film, and we used a film project to try and bring them together and try and get them to interact. And we even made a documentary with 14 showmen families in Romsey who were being evicted from their land because there were no provisions for showmen, so they were being forced to go onto a lay-by instead. And they ended up making an appeal video with them. We made an appeal video with them, which they showed in the civic offices to 16 councillors, and it was a really lovely moment. We were really learning how the arts can be used as a tool for social change. There were so many penny drop moments, learning about an educationalist called Frere, who really believed that education and learning wasn't about me telling you something and just the teacher. It was actually about the teacher and the pupil, and how you had to be both of those things to get any sort of worthwhile exchange and not just knowledge transfer. And he called it a dialogue, and that a dialogue should be in every conversation that you have. And then there was a theatre practitioner who really rung true, who was called Augustus Boal, and he took this pedagogy, love that word, pedagogy, sure, and he took that and he brought theatre to it, and he used play as a way of creating this dialogue. Again, this seemed really fantastic. Play is a massive catalyst for getting people to understand and empathise with each other. And all of this made complete sense. And it was quite inspiring to learn that people were doing this, using play and theatre as a form of communicating, not just using theatre as a way of entertaining, which is often quite an elite medium. So all of these things were bubbling away in a massive pot, as they do. And meanwhile, I was working in a pub, and I met a very handsome brown-eyed boy called Jeff, as you do. And he was waving pictures, well, not quite waving, but he was showing me pictures of this bow-top wagon that he'd just bought and wanted to renovate, and also told me about his off-grid life, that he'd been living on a farm, an ancient woodland, for the past 4 years, working on a flower farm. Now, it could have been that. It could have been a talk of wagons and off-grid life, or it could have been the pint of coffee in Winchester Bus Station Cafe on our first date, before he took me down to go and see Frank, who is an iconic Winchester figure who used to live on the bottom of St Catherine's Hill. Some of you may remember him in his handmade geodesic dome. I think it was all of those things, because I was completely and utterly wooed. And it wasn't too long before we found our own sympathetic farmer, who gave us a little corner of his cow field next to the River Itchen that we would be allowed to use. We grew veg there, we made fires. I learned to make fire. I learned to make a cup of tea using a fire, which is an incredibly satisfying task. I do it every single day. It connects me in some way. And that connection is a big word. I understood what it was like to feel connected to the land, connected to nature. And I felt absolutely, for the first time, living off-grid, and I was living within my means. And there was lots of talk around this time with friends, talking about how we could create a woodland project that would allow the art, theatre, and community to all come together. And I was 24 when we first bought Spinney Hollow, which was then a 5-acre site. It's a semi-ancient woodland, mixed broadleaf, complete with badgers, foxes, deer, buzzards. It's a really lovely woodland. It's the kind of place that you may have all been to somewhere like this, where you just walk in it and your shoulders seem to drop, but without you even realising it. It has a really lovely feel about it. And this place, over time, has become something really quite amazing that I'm so proud to be a part of. We've had all sorts of people through the gates, and it's been really influenced by the people that have spent time in this space. And over the last years, we've been working with rural craft works, people getting their hands dirty and promoting that way of life. People like bow makers, forgery, outdoor knife makers, chair makers, a whole range of rural craft skills. And then encouraging young people to come and play, come and sit, come and unravel, have space, time out. Lots of different youth clubs. And being so close to Southampton, we've really enabled this sort of transition between the urban culture and the country to come together a bit, because they don't have to go too far to get there. We keep bees, we keep pigs, chickens, we have a permaculture garden. We invite lots of people to come and help unload our charcoal kilns, because it's all part of this diverse woodland enterprise, if you like. And there's so many different parts to it. And from this project, which is about sitting and being connected, came another project, which was a mix, which brought the mix of youth work, arts and theatre into yet another pot. And this was with Jenny and Craig. And this project was named after a bird that ran up trees called TreeCreeper. And TreeCreeper today works with lots of different, an array of different communities. We work with adults with learning disabilities. We work with young people who are not in education, training, or employment. We work with 4-year-olds, which is great fun. And we work with, at the moment actually, we work with young people who are young offenders who are domestically abusing their parents. And our primary aim is to create a dialogue with them. And we do that in 3 ways. First of all, we play. We love to play, and this is really important. You get in a room and you create a safe space. You enjoy each other's company. You get silly. You unlock some of those fears you have about play, and that really enables you to start sharing and start being a bit silly if you need to be, becoming a team and being able to be a confident individual within that group. And then we explore. We explore the world around us. Who are we? What are we? Why are we? We unpick and unravel those questions, which can be quite a task for some people. And we use improvisation, we use forum theatre, and we use storytelling techniques to do this. And then finally, we devise. We put all of this dialogue into a nice big pot, and we create a really quality, tangible piece of theatre that can then be performed, thus increasing the social impact of their messages and their discoveries. Theatre can be a way of communicating. It doesn't have to be just a form of entertainment. So, as I'm sat in the woodland last night cooking sausages for our knife participants who are there at the moment, probably should have been rehearsing this, but as I was cooking, the ideas came up with Jeff about how we want to carry on more of a theatre approach in the woods and create a sort of amphitheatre that will allow artists to come in and work there and reside there for a time and make work. We call it the Little Theatre in the Woods. And I'm getting really excited about this. And I was contemplating sleeping under the stars with my son last night, and it started to rain, so I didn't. But I thought, I don't think I'm going to get ill. And I certainly don't think I'm going to get tuberculosis. And you know what, I think even my mother now realises that, well, she now believes that she might not if she goes outside and spends a night outside. And even though Starlight, the Palomino horse, has left to pastures new, I have a deep suspicion that there is a unicorn called Brian living in the woods opposite. Thank you.